Right, we'll call our Parks Commission meeting to order September 7th, 2023 at 6:22 p.m. And first, a motion to approve the minutes. I'll move to approve the minutes of August. A second?
I'll second.
Second.
Yes. Yeah. Any discussion? Those in favor of the minutes as written, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Public appearances for non-agenda items. I see nobody has registered under that category. Review and approve agenda. Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Sarah's second. Sarah Schroeder is the second. Those in favor of the agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, our agenda is approved. 5A action item, Resolution R-15823, Stoner Prairie Park Planning Design Services approval. A motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, Heidi Reynolds is the second. Scott?
And this is as we continue to, we were able to get the Stoner Prairie Park plan approved, concept plan approved. So this is the next couple steps in getting the project built. We did receive two proposals from EOR. They total $33,000. The first phase of that $33,000 is to figure out the specific details of each amenity, what the playground's going to look like, what the shelter will look like, and those kinds of things. And that'll be work that'll be, certainly done in partnership with the Park Commission, maybe even involve the neighborhood to come up with a final amenity description or design. And then once that's completed, then we still need to keep in mind that we've got a budget that we need to work under. And actually, as part of that first step, EOR will put together some budget estimates for us so that then we can, or the Park Commission can kind of decide if we need to phase the project or what should be priorities or those types of things. And also, too, the Tracy and the Stormwater Group, they're working on the new well house there, which includes a park bathroom facility. So we're going to be getting some estimates on what that's going to cost. So we'll need to factor that into the project. So then once it's decided what we want to do, then EOR will put together the construction documents and help us bid the project, and then we'll hopefully build it. And really, it'd be great if we could do this work in this fall and winter and, get this bid, get the hub bid, get McKee tennis courts done, all of that in 2024. It's a bit ambitious, but I think we can get it done. So.
Okay. Any questions for Scott? It's pretty straightforward. I don't know that I have anything to add to all the prep work that's done here. So if there's no questions, comments, Chris, go ahead.
I just thought of one question. I saw in the deliverables on the sheets for the second part of the proposal, the construction documents, I saw site plan. I did not see landscape plan. So I wanted to know if a planting plan was to be included or not.
That I can find out, Chris, but I would think certainly with the prairie mix and the trees, I think that certainly should be included in our scope, that's for sure.
Good catch.
Good catch, yeah.
Anything else? We're talking about Stoner Prairie Park planning. Any questions, Alder Herbst? No. Okay. Good. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right.
She said aye.
Aye, yeah.
Aye.
It's
She didn't oppose.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know there's the delay on the phone connection. Okay, so we will move on to McKee Farms Park Tennis Court. Just want to make sure I don't miss these registered speakers. Resolution R159-23, McKee Farms Park Tennis Court and Fence Replacement Approval. We need a motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Yes. Scott?
This is maybe just a quick summary that the tennis courts were built and constructed in 2000 and 2001 at McKee Farms Park. The Parks Department, we did do some maintenance on the courts in 2010, and now it's getting to be 2023. And typically with blacktop tennis courts, they do have a life expectancy between 20 and 25 years. So it was time that we needed to do something with the courts. What we did do is if Fred, I don't know if Fred is online there, he's not online, but Fred Kolkman, he was our professional consultant from Tennis and Sports Surfacing, LLC. And what he was able to do is we wanted to look at the type of surfacing that we were going to put at McKee through a 50-year maintenance or life expectancy lens to try to determine what the annual cost is going to be for each of the different surfaces. And what we did is there's 4 different types of surfaces. And the first one that we looked at was a tile system, which basically is an interlocking tile system. And if you look at this down in the lower right-hand corner of the table, the tile surfacing, then the turf with color over aggregate, that's the Pro Bounce that staff is recommending. Then the pulverize and pave is basically what we did at Wildwood South, where you come in and remove it and then redo it. And then the post-tension concrete was the 4th type of surfacing that we looked at. And at the end of the day, if you look on the right-hand column, that's the cost per year for 50 years with the life expectancy, because the different surfacing have different life expectancies. And actually at the Board of Public Works, which was kind of brought up, is that with a life expectancy between 30 and 35 years, in this, the Pro Bounce, which we're recommending, is going to need to be replaced in year 30 or 35. We could actually extend that to 60 years. So it would really kind of reduce the amount of annual allocations for the surface. And certainly if you're waiting for 30 or 35 years to do something with it, you're not mobilizing and bidding and all of those kinds of things. What's interesting about the Pro Bounce surfacing, if you can think of AstroTurf, that's what the base of it is, and then they have like 6 or 7 different coats over the top of it. So at the end of the day, it's going to look like a tennis court, but it has that bounce to it for the players in comparison to blacktop or the post-tension concrete. So that's the gist of it. The funding, it is going to need a 2/3 vote at the council because it is a budget amendment. We're paying for it out of the ARPA TID closure funds, so it really isn't general property tax dollars. And then also the balance of $276,000 is going to come from a TID closure fund. So these are, I suspect it's part tax dollars, but it's not. These are dollars that are not general property tax dollars specifically, or park improvement dollars in order to do the project. And again, we've got four other tennis courts within the park system, which we've tried to get funding for to replace them, and we've had difficulty in doing that. So Mayor Richardson, his thought was that McKee Farms Park was going to be the tennis courts within the park system. And then McGaw Park is going to be the pickleball courts within the park system. So at this point, we're going to, invest in our McKee tennis courts because those will be the tennis courts for our park system. Board of Public Works, we just met at 5:30, and they I don't want to speak for Dave, but they did approve unanimously, so which is good.
I have a question, and you may have addressed this earlier, I just can't remember. Would these be striped for pickleball as well?
They would not.
I
Would not.
wondered about that.
They would not, yep. And the project is, for the fencing, also, they're going to have to redo all the sidewalks and those kinds of things on the perimeter. So the fence will end up being 8 feet, but it'll have a black acrylic on the fence, which I think is really going to be cool. Oh.
Just a comment on the pickleball. People could come and play there if they want, but what Fred explained, different type of surface. Pickleball, they're basically a hard wiffle ball, and it doesn't bounce as well. So you could play it, and probably be fine, but it's not their preferred surface to play on. But there's nothing else stop them from coming there and playing pickleball. But we're not intending to stripe it.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Heidi, go ahead, Heidi.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
I apologize for the delay. I want to make sure so that costs that include the not just repaving, but basically redoing the tennis courts as well as the cost of the fence.
Yeah, it's all included in the project. Yep, the fence and the sidewalk around the periphery and the tennis court surfacing.
What about
Thank you.
wind slats in the fence?
There's going to be wind slats on 3 sides of it, if I'm remembering correctly. Not on the east side because we've got some arborvitaes on that side.
Okay. Go ahead.
I may be remembering incorrectly, but I thought years ago we had a tennis group that actually paid to use those courts regularly, and we lost them, I thought.
They're back.
They're back. Okay, I was going to say,
Yep.
do we know if they have an opinion or if
Well, I didn't ask them, but I know I included in the Pro Bounce tennis courts. USTA is one of the sponsored, so I assume that they, ITF and all the other, 10 and under tennis. These are all people that
yeah, they definitely have a lot of places listed that,
Yeah.
I didn't know they were back, so I was curious.
They
Okay,
are.
Thank you.
Yep, which is good.
Go ahead, David.
Scott, can you move back down where the yearly? So I had a question on this. So, like for instance, the Pro Bounce, I think it's 26,660. Is that the number?
Correct.
So that over 50 years, that would be the cost of, we'd put this one in, and we'd have to, replace it at 35, and this is what it would average over 50 years. But that doesn't include the initial, roughly $1 million that we're spending, does it? I don't think it does. The initial $1 million we're spending, or am I wrong here? This isn't just a yearly maintenance cost. This is
No, what this number would be, actually what we would do is we would put in the CIP on an annual basis that amount so that in 35 or 50, then in 50 years we'd have those amount of dollars available to replace it.
right, but it okay.
Yeah,
It
right.
doesn't
We
include
would,
this initial,
yes, we're not going to have to pay.
It's not an annualization of the costs over 50 years. It's the replacement cost. You could annualize it if
that's
you
correct.
summed it up. It'd be twice that much. But okay.
Well, and I did mention too, Dave, what Alder Jester mentioned with a 30 or 35-year life expectancy,
Yeah.
that it would actually be 60 years. So, that would
Lower.
reduce a bit the cost on an annual basis.
Any other thoughts, questions? Okay.
I have a question that might not, the person that can answer it might not be here, but I was looking at this material, and so it'll be set over an aggregate surface rather than a pavement. Is there any, I know there's no concern with cracking and filling cracks and stuff like that, which we've all seen tennis courts with the cracks running all the way through them, or all of our pavement in Wisconsin for that matter. But, so that won't happen with this material. Is there any concern with heaving and sinking from freeze thaw? So this material won't crack, but will it develop any sort of uneven surface from that freeze thaw if the base is not done well enough?
Well, and that's a good question, Chris, and I would kind of defer to the current court that, with the current base that we have, which we'll maintain, we're not getting those, we're getting the cracks in the expansion joints where they're supposed to occur. That's not happening out in the north, the play part of the court. So to me, that means that the base is solid and it's not shifting around and those kinds of things.
So this would be going over the existing base. They wouldn't be excavating and putting in new base.
No, right,
Okay.
right. And I think we're going to raise it a little bit to make sure that we stay out of the 100-year floodplain and similar to what we did at the splash pad, because the splash pad is elevated to stay out of that 100-year floodplain. But we did check too that if water does happen to get on it, it'll be fine.
Anything else? Ready to vote? Those in favor of R 159-23, or 23, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, we are at the Parks and Open Space Plan update, and there is one person who'd like to comment. Patrick Cheney, 5211 Kitty Crest, would like to comment. Go right ahead when you're ready.
Hi, two comments I wanted to mention on this. Most important first, on page 106 of the packet, or 58 out of the POSP plan, I wanted to point out a couple of paragraphs there. Bottom of the page, I'll read one line out of the paragraph, and this is, let's see here. I think this is possibly new because I haven't seen this before. The sentence says, the city should also ensure that it is only accepting parkland that furthers the city's goals and is not accepting parcels merely because they are undevelopable. And what I've seen over a long time, developers are in this for the money. If they can't get, the last dime out of this, they look for ways to get as much profit out of this as possible. And this frequently over time has meant that whatever land that a developer's site cannot have a building or a parking lot on it, it's useless to them, and they're willing to sell it or give it to the city. As this relates to something undevelopable, especially wetlands, which I consider swamps and mosquito holes, they are very happy, I think, in my opinion, to give it to the city for free. So I encourage this council, this commission and the council to not give any credit for wetland to development for park line dedication. Because the developer just wants it off of their hands, they will give it for free, and this has been shown in the past where other developers have done that. The next sentence, next paragraph right after that also says park impact fees should be reviewed and evaluated to ensure they are aligned with and linked to the long-term replacement maintenance and staffing capabilities of the parks improvements that are funded by those park impact fees. I will point out that I've been watching this for quite a while, and the $65,000 per acre that the city gives credit for or charges for the fee in place of land is way, way, way low. I've seen for quite a while now the value of land in Fitchburg is usually at $400,000 per acre, and I just looked up a lot that if you work out the math on it, it was valued at $771,000 per acre. The other point that I'll make is I did see in the park and open space plan that the picture of the beer garden has been removed, but it does have the words beer garden on page 105 out of your 146 page packet. I would strongly encourage the commission to make it really clear to staff to not get into that again because of the uproar and furious objections from McKee Park neighbors when there was a private company being considered for basically ownership of the McKee shelter. And don't let staff get into that again without upfront approval from this commission.
Okay. Scott, we've got this as a discussion action item. Do you need a motion? Or are we just taking a list of comments at this point?
Yep. I think at this point, what I'd like Brad to do is come up and kind of give us a summary, and certainly we would put it at discussion and action. So if there is any comments that the Park Commission would like to make, Brad can take notes of this. And then actually a little bit about the process, which I'm sure Brad will get to at the end. It'll come back to the Park Commission for final approval. This will be the last body that will take a look at it for final recommendation before it does go to the council. So I think with that, certainly a quick thank you to Brad and all of his work on the Park and Open Space Plan update, but it's all yours, Brad.
All right, thanks, Scott. Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Sipple. I'm the Community Development Planner in the Planning Department at the City of Fitchburg. As you know, the Park and Open Space Plan update was in your packet. The two big sections of it. The executive summary hasn't been completed yet, and that will be done later on when it's closer to the final product that will be adopted. But what I plan to do during this meeting is kind of do a pretty high level overview on the plan and talk about some of the, again, at a high level changes in section 2 in the existing conditions and inventory and issues identification. Probably stop after that in case there are any discussion items or comments from there, and then discuss some of the changes to section 3, the action items, since this commission last saw it. I think it was maybe February of 2022, I think was the last time the action items were in front of this body. So I figured I would walk through some of those changes, and then any discussion on the action items could come after that. And that's kind of my intention. If that sounds good with everyone, I'll just get into it. So a quick overview on what I guess the scope of this plan is. It is basically the guide for policy making and decision making over the next 5 years. It's a 5-year plan. It prioritizes the actions that the city will take over the next 5 years related to parks, rec, and open space. And it's a high level document that is system wide, looks at all the properties within the park and open space system, and it doesn't get into great detail on any individual properties. One of the reasons that we have this plan is, not only to guide the city's action, but it also keeps us eligible for applying for DNR grants related to park and open space acquisition and development. So, this update here that we're doing was I guess what we call a minor update. The formatting, structure, layout of the plan is all remaining the same from the last plan, and it's some refinement to the issues, updating the inventory and the population projections, and then updating the action items were kind of the big items for this plan. So. With that, I'll start talking about existing conditions. Since the last plan was completed in 2015, 2016, the city's added around 22 new park properties, most of which are currently categorized as either undeveloped or open space or natural areas, I mean. But that did include 2 new community parks as well. We also, going through this document, we updated the amenities in each park that are listed in the inventory, updated the miles of trails, I'll just go to page, one of the things I was going to highlight, again, I'm not going to spend too much time on the existing conditions unless there are specific questions, but on page 14 of the plan, that talks about the population projections. I did want to bring attention to this. As I mentioned, we updated the population projections and the current population of the city here, evaluated it according to our current standard of active parkland, showing that we're still meeting the standard of active parkland for our current population of 31,817. Scott's almost there. This table right here is where I'm talking about. So we're right at that our existing standard of active parkland, and we're slightly above the median in the United States according to the National Recreation and Park Association performance report of parkland per 1,000 people. So that's where we are there. Looking at 2030 and 2040, we were expecting that we'd need to add about 74 more acres of active parkland by 2030 and 144 more acres by 2040 to maintain that level of parkland per 1,000 people. I think that about covers what I wanted to talk about in the existing conditions in the inventory. I did not plan on going over, all of the park properties unless there are specific questions or comments about any. So go ahead, Sue.
One question about a McGaw Park description. I don't know when the addition, the western addition that came in with the Fahey development, is that in there as increased acreage compared to previously?
I believe so. The McGaw Park acreage did go up since the last plan, so I think I incorporated that in there.
Yeah, it must have been. The other question I had about that description is whether you thought it'd be helpful to mention that it is also directly adjacent to S. Johnson Park, because
That's
it's
a good
kind of
idea.
unique that they're near each other. So then I didn't see in the inventory a separate notation for the western addition, because then that's just incorporated into the McGaw rather.
Right.
Total. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Good idea. Thank you.
Hi, it's Heidi. I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I'm wondering, I know, I believe it was Patrick, somebody brought up about the price per acre that developers are paying versus, what the actual price per acre is, I guess, on the market. Is there a comparison to other communities of our size, what developers pay? Just for us to know, are we in line or are we underselling ourselves? I guess I'm curious.
Evaluating that was identified as an action item in the plan, so I don't currently have a comparison, but it is something that we identify that we should take a look at over the next 5 years.
Go ahead, David.
Just got a general comment, about the population in the parks. I'm in the parks all the time, and our parks are vastly underutilized. On that 75-degree Saturday, maybe they're full, but they're vastly underutilized. There's a 10-acre park by my house, and the majority of the time, I'm there 365 days a year, and probably 300 of them I'm the only person there. So the point I'd make, I don't know if we need to add that much. We have underutilized parks the way it is right now, as the area grows, for instance, Terra Vesta, obviously, you want parks in those areas, but I see those statistics, but I just, the reality of when I'm driving by parks and seeing people in them, I think we have enough space for twice as many people as we have in Fitchburg. So just my 2 cents worth.
Okay, thank you.
This is Christopher Garrow. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I had two comments. One on the deficiencies and looking at our Healthy Neighborhoods initiative and identifying priority neighborhoods where we may have challenges for access for different communities. So thinking low income, limited English proficient. I think it would be great to do some research of other municipal governments that have asked those questions and maybe some of the strategies and commitments around increasing access for many folks who may not access those parks. And going on Dave's perspective to your point, increasing access to more communities can utilize those parks and activate those parks more. So simple one of those would be English or language access. And then the other comment was around climate adaptation and vegetation management. As we go into more heat extremes like this last year, is this the space we put in climate adaptation of that vegetation management and or fire mitigation?
Okay, thank you.
I think those are both good comments and questions. There is kind of, I guess, some language that was added to the inventory and the existing conditions, since the H&I program was added new since the last plan. It does reflect that was added, and it talks about it, again, on a high level, and that could maybe be added in there to give some examples of ways in which the park system could better meet those needs. And then on the other one, I could see this plan having some mention of that. The city's also working on a sustainability plan right now, and I think the climate adaptation piece might fit better in the sustainability plan, but parks certainly could play a role in that, so I could see it making sense here too. So that's something we'll consider.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions on the existing conditions inventory? Okay, so moving on, talk about some of the issues, or I guess how the issues have changed since the last plan. A lot of the issues that are identified in this current draft here are the same, or at least very similar as they were in the last plan. Some of them have become more prominent, so we further explained them and maybe added more context to what was causing them, or refined them a little bit. Just an example that's already come up a couple times here is revisiting the classifications and standards and the parkland dedication requirements. I think those have become more and more kind of forefront issues since the last plan. So we did kind of add more explanation into what that might look like, what a revisiting what revisiting those should look like, and how to maybe look at aligning those with the goals of the system. And the other thing that I think was enhanced in this compared to the last one is an emphasis on partnerships, both for, increasing utilization of the parks and open space system, and possibly looking into partnerships for management and operations further than what already exists. So those are a couple of the issues that were either kind of added or bolstered. Again, I guess I'll stop there, and if there's any questions or comments about any of the issues that were identified in this document, or anything that was missing, that any commission members noticed they thought were missing, that we need to add. So.
Anybody? Sarah?
Sure.
I saw that the tree canopy references were added, which I'm really happy about. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to page through. But our new tree ordinance, was that also added in or would it fit from a perspective of a consideration?
It was actually, so because there was actually an action item to adopt a tree preservation ordinance in the last plan. I actually removed it because there was an ordinance passed since the last plan. So I don't see a need for referencing it in here anymore since it was completed.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you'll have an answer, but, we have the tree advisory committee that works and reports to us. And we have tree canopy goals citywide. But here, the Parks Commission just deals with parkland, yet the tree canopy is citywide. It's in the greenways and the roadsides, et cetera, et cetera. So and maybe more of these type of questions will come from tree advisory committee, but, there's concerns raised there about preserving more roadside trees during road reconstructions, et cetera. That doesn't really relate to parks, but it relates to tree advisory committee and our overall goal. So is there any way, and then of course that involves public works, et cetera, of tying all that together? Because it's nice to say we have a 30% goal, but in our plan, but if we're going to then be told, but we can't talk about roadside trees and we can't talk about anything unless it's in a park, we're kind of hamstrung.
Yeah, so my take on this, and I guess my recommendation would be to, this plan is park, open space, and recreation. So I think the tree canopy goal, like you said, it deals with more than park properties. And I think the implementation of that canopy goal can come outside of this plan. I think this plan is focused on park properties and how that canopy goal could be met using park properties, and that's where this plan should focus. And then, if you're talking about right-of-way tree canopy and stuff, I think that comes elsewhere, just because the Parks Department doesn't have much, control over that.
Yeah, we don't hold sway, but, and I agree with what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing. The tree advisory committee they're looking at all of that when they do their business. Would it be acceptable to just have a remark in here about that the 30% tree canopy goal is not solely achieved within the park system, that it's a citywide?
Yes.
The citywide, there could be contributions citywide.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay,
and
thank you.
I talk about that goal somewhere in here, so I think that, I could add a sentence in that section that says that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A quick thought. I'm wondering if there is an intersection somewhere, and if there's a place for it in this document where the new tree protection ordinance and the tree surveys that are a part of that align with the tree canopy and the parkland dedication. So certainly as a park system, I think we would prioritize parcels with existing valuable tree canopy. And now, theoretically, we're able to see where those will exist, which can help us better define where we might want that land dedication to come from. Not that we're able to just dictate where it is, but we'll certainly have visibility of it. So I'm wondering if, even though it's something that we'll surely all keep in mind as we're going through this process, I wonder if it's something that ought to be in writing or at least stated as a goal to consider.
Yeah, I think we could consider that. That makes sense.
Go ahead, Sarah.
This is something silly and I'm backtracking, so I apologize. But for the community senior center, just because it's brand new, do you want to add that the patio is available?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's page 31. I
Thank
don't know,
you.
but
That's not silly.
Yep, thank you. All right, moving on, and we've kind of already transitioned to the action items, so I'm on page 2 of the action item document now, which you are pretty much at, Scott, so thank you. So I wanted to, I guess, quick mention the vision. I believe this was kind of refined, worked through at your previous meetings, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was good with this vision before moving on. And I'll just read it quick since not everyone is here. The City of Fitchburg Park Open Space and Recreation System strives for an appropriate balance of passive and active recreational and social opportunities and responsible preservation and sustainable stewardship of the city's natural environment and resources. The system works to achieve these ideals through adherence to the city's growth principles of sustainable, equitable, vibrant, and cooperative, as contained in the city's comprehensive plan, as well as the system's 3 S's framework of sociable, solitude, and seams.
Sounds good.
Okay.
No objection?
Sounds good. Now I'll move on to the goals. As you noticed in red, there were some modifications to a couple of the goals that I just want to highlight real quick. Goal 1, the word inclusive was added in addition to accessible and equitable. And we just added parentheses to more fully explain what is meant by population demographics. There's some examples there. Going down to goal 4, added tree canopy as one of the, I guess one of the pieces of the park open space and recreation land that would be integrated. And then goal 6, added and an efficient and sustainable manner. I guess managing added sustainable to that in addition to efficient, and removed the provides for public safety mainly because that is kind of an implied and unsaid thing that just seemed to create more confusion than help. So those were the changes to the goals. Any questions or comments? Excellent. Going in, again, I mentioned that I'd just walk through some of the action items that were changed. Feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions about action items that I don't talk about. I wasn't planning on going through all of them, just in the interest of time in case there are questions. But the first one, we did make some changes to the proposed signature theme parks compared to the last plan. I will read through this. The agriculture, we have Terra Vesta Agriculture Park as the signature theme park for ag. Dolly Conservancy and Quarry Ridge as the biking themed parks. The North Fish Hatchery Road Hub and McKee Farms Park as the community, and this phrasing was changed from, I'm actually blanking on what it was before. Changed it to community from something else. And history is Old Fitchburg. Added a disclaimer about this one that it's not actually city-owned land, so that would require partnerships in order to identify or I guess establish a theme along there. Nature, McCoy and West Clayton Road Open Space and McGaw Park. And then sports fields and courts, we've got both McKee Farms and McGaw listed there. And then winter, we have the Hub and the Nine Springs Golf Course. So the next action item, there was an addition, is number 3 on page 5. And before I get into 3C there, the additional one, I also wanted to bring up 3B. This was one that I had noticed after it was sent out to you that I'd like to tailor a little bit more to park properties. 3B is exploring options to require APBP compliant bike parking, and kind of has a broad list of places to require it, and that's a bit outside of the Parks Department scope. A lot of that is more on the planning and development side, and is something that would be taken care of by zoning and development review. So I thought that action item between now and the final plan should be more narrowly tailored to parks properties and be something like, including adequate bike parking in park properties or something like that. So if everyone's in agreement, I'll move ahead with that change later. And then on 3C, we added an additional item talking through the evaluation of park dedication, fee in lieu of dedication, and park impact fees to ensure that they're meeting the system goals and the long-term, I guess, sustainability of the parks and open space system. Number 4, change some of the language along the community scale facilities and implementing the hub just to kind of make sure that's in line with the Parks Department role and capacity in that role. On number 7.
Question here.
Yeah.
For 4B,
Yes.
I like adding in the desire to continue to work towards a teen resource facility.
Okay.
I don't, is it wise to put in a location? Or would it be nice to have the flexibility to be able to choose a location that best suits the needs of the city?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Just because, and I'm only asking just because it's not established, we don't have necessarily a time frame, so.
So you're saying remove Verona Road, but
I am, yeah.
just to say teen resources and services facility
Yeah, like.
gives more flexibility in case down the road it turns out it's not going to be on Verona Road.
Sure. Yeah, we'll consider that.
Thank you.
This is Heidi. Can I ask
Yes.
one more question
Go
about
right
that?
ahead. Yep, please go ahead.
So, thinking more and more about this teen resource center, I'm wondering if we are limiting ourselves by calling it teen and should perhaps refer to it more as a community resource center where we can get adults and teens and children and whatever we decide the goal of that place is, that we have the whole community involved in making sure that teens as well as younger folks are involved in their community and getting whatever help they need.
Yeah, we can consider that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that one, on that action? Excellent. Okay. Next one that we had changes or additions to were on 7 related to staff within the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department. 2 here, 7A is as directed by council, explore with other departments the feasibility of various H&I community facilities and services. And that language was basically edited to reflect that, that there would be staff needed for those likely for maintenance and things like that. So, and then 7B was consider separating the urban forester and naturalist into 2 positions.
Can I ask a question on that one too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just wondering to allow us the most flexibility for 7B, is that another instance where maybe it would be convenient to offer it or to just expand it greater to say, consider expanding, I don't know.
Staff yeah.
To meet needs, just because what if it's decided that it's best to just have 2 that are split I have no idea, but just
Sure.
thinking long-term as to what would be most
So something-
accommodating.
Like to meet the needs of forestry and natural areas.
Something for
Yeah.
consider, okay.
Yeah, we can consider that. I think that could make sense. All right, next. Thank you, Scott, for doing that. On 10A, just expanded that a little bit to include forest management plans for specific parcels, in addition to the, I guess a strategic management plan for urban forestry in general. Addition to B is just implementing the goal. I think when the last plan was developed and this action was there, that canopy goal was not established in the comprehensive plan, whereas now it is. So added implementing that tree canopy goal and including, kind of tying it to parks properties, including preservation of existing mature trees in those properties when feasible. This might be a good place to add, that working with other departments on preserving tree canopy as feasible or something like that. F and G are both came out of conversations with other staff. Those two plans, the specific management plan for public properties and the general maintenance plan for public properties, they come up elsewhere in the plan as things to follow, but they appeared to be kind of obsolete and unused and don't meet our needs anymore. So I wanted to add action items in there to consider updating and replacing those in conjunction with Public Works Department as staff resources would allow. And then finally added an additional action, 10H, to evaluate opportunities to convert underutilized grass spaces in existing parks to forest or prairie landscapes.
I have a comment for F or G and or. There was, I raised this issue to the council, not as a parks commissioner, but going back a ways, that we have parks that were developed before the current day standards for stormwater management. And so then we didn't really have a list of parks that have areas in them where the stormwater goes, but they're not being managed in the way that there's a specific list of those that are managed, that Public Works and the stormwater utility, they've got their list. And many of our parks, I shouldn't say many, there are parks in the system that have the same function. They're not on any list. And I thought that there was going to be the creation of a list.
Okay. That's something I could check with Public Works on to see if it has been done.
Okay, thank you.
And if not, maybe that's, these could be tweaked to
Yeah,
look
it might
into
fit
that.
here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Just a sec, Scott, before you scroll down one quick thing, and this might be splitting hairs, but for H, you might consider changing grass to mowed turf or something to that effect, or mowed lawn or something like that. And instead of forest or prairie, maybe broaden that scope a little bit to native landscapes, just keep it a bit more general.
I can do that. All right. Moving on to number 12. In 12A originally, and again, this is a carryover from the last plan, develop strategy to gather input on existing and potential future recreation programs and services, added an action to evaluate resources and partnerships needed to provide whatever potential future recreation programs and services would come out of A. 13B added an action to evaluate opportunities to fill in park and recreation related gaps in neighborhoods that are not currently within a quarter-mile of neighborhood park amenities. And that would be whether those amenities are provided by neighborhood, area, or community park. And that's something that you kind of start to scratch at in this plan through the mapping, but it doesn't quite get to the level of evaluating where there are gaps. So it was something that could be looked into further as an action. So number 14A, the language in this one was just modified again to more align it with how parks would be involved in it, and how the Parks Department would be, I guess, a piece of the puzzle for the Bike Fitchburg Greenway proposal that I think was brought forward maybe a year or two ago. And then on 15C, added an item to explore third-party and nonprofit partnerships for fundraising, management, coordination of maintenance and improvement, and an example given here, creating an endowment fund for maintenance or a Friends of Fitchburg Parks group. So, and then of course, all those new actions are, I kind of took a first crack at identifying the priority level of them based on the need identified in the issues and I guess the importance of those or the nature of whether it's a kind of a one and done action or if it's something that's ongoing. So that about covers what I wanted to go over on the action items. Any additional comments, questions, anything like that on that part of the document? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your feedback, comments, and questions. If you have anything that comes up in the meantime, feel free to email it to us too if there's anything that didn't come up at this meeting. The next steps for this are kind of integrating, the feedback from tonight. Then we'll start the once that's done and kind of a closer to final document is ready, we'll start the referral process, bring it through other committees. I don't know if we've really determined which committees yet, but it's probably going to be about 5 committees, I think, that we go through. It'll come back to the Parks Commission for kind of final look at what the committee feedback was before going to council for final approval then is the plan going forward. So.
Okay. No last words from anyone? Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, of course.
All right, so we are on our communication item regarding the Hartoon property. Yes, please go ahead, Mayor Radafrada.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you read the memo that staff put together, but we would like to, if you can, postpone this discussion until the next meeting because the final plat is going, with revision, is going to Plan Commission next week, and then should be coming here.
It is under communication, so it's strictly an update for the Park Commission, kind of what's going on. And as Mayor indicated, staff is recommending that it's going to go to the Plan Commission and then come back to the Parks Commission. So it's just kind of a communication item for you.
Yeah, we had, and Deanna Schmidt was probably just going to provide us with some info, but will not make any decisions at all. But
my recommendation is that postpone the discussion.
Just not even have the discussion.
Yeah.
Did you have a comment about that, Dave? You'd like to?
It's up to you.
Whatever works. We've had Deanna waiting. Is there, Scott? What is it that we wanted to go through today?
Well, I think Deanna was going to provide the same recommendation that Julio Radafrada provided. So.
And Heidi's waiting to comment because we approved the agenda, so we would, and it's just a communication item. It's not that we'd even have to table it because we're not tabling an action. So okay. Do you want to go ahead, Deanna, with whatever it is you wanted to say? Or Heidi, do you have comment first?
Well, I was just curious why the mayor wanted to table it. It's not an action item, so I feel like hearing about it should be okay. And it is on the agenda, which was approved.
Okay, well, and Deanna's been waiting this whole time, so we'll let her have a little bit of say, whatever it is she wants to tell us. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. So, yes, I'm the city planner, and I did prepare a memo that is in your packet. And this item is, of course, as the mayor has said, is going to be coming back to Plan Commission because the developers have requested some changes Scott and I thought it might be helpful just to provide some background information in that memo. And then, of course, I'd be available for any questions. But we just wanted to provide a little bit of an update. That's all I have.
All right. And I am realizing that I did not recognize that a citizen registered to comment. Do you have a comment now, knowing that we're not really doing anything? Is there anything you'd like to comment on, or should I? Patrick? All right, well.
If you're not going to discuss it or anything, then I guess I'll.
Okay, we'll withdraw that one. Okay. So, Scott, anything more you want to say to us about it?
Well, we can move on to the other communication
Well,
items.
can I ask?
Go ahead, Heidi.
Oh, I was just going to ask, what was the update? She just said she was going to provide an update. I don't know, maybe my phone cut out. Was there actually
There was
something that was updated? I apologize.
Yeah, there was a memo from the city planner in the packet, which was the update.
So we can just.
Okay, all right. So it was that was the update. Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so our other communication items, Scott, go ahead.
Well, and actually what I tried to do is go out and take some pictures on some projects. Clayton Road Playground has been installed, which I got a picture thereof. And then I did want to provide you an update on the Hillside Heights Playground project. And if you look at this picture, you look to the left of the oak tree is a concrete pad, which we'll be placing a bench as our time allows. Oh, there it is. Look at that. And then I kind of panned a little bit to there's the other pad that will be the home of a bench, as staff is allowed the time to get those in there. And actually what we're doing too is for all the new playgrounds, placing benches at them. This is kind of the view of the patio and the new bike racks and the slats at the pickleball courts. I wanted to provide update information because I was scolded last meeting that I didn't provide any update information. So I'm doing that the best of my ability. Southdale Park, we had a movie night, which was really very, very cool. Here's a little bit of the Outlot 11, the Crescent Crossing, and actually we've got a checklist of things that need to be completed, and actually once we accept the park, the agreement is that they're going to need to maintain it for a whole year after that is accepted. But certainly it's not acceptable at this point. There's turf and fences and those kinds of things. So they're working on that checklist. And then once we approve or accept it, and then that year of maintenance that they're going to provide goes into effect. And this is actually, you can kind of see the small dog area closest to you, and then farther to the north actually is the large, and you can see that the transmission lines, if you remember, it was going to be under the transmission line, so there they are. And then here is actually, this is the large dog park area to the north. But you can see the turf is just needs to be better established. And then this is Outlot 7, the tot lot, which really is pretty cool. It's pretty substantial, actually. And then actually this treatment is also, if you go further down here, is the same type of treatment at the end. And there's a large green space in the middle there too, so it really is pretty nice. This is the McKee basketball courts. We're going to get those done. And actually, Byrne Park will get new basketball courts. Southdale will get new basketball courts. And then actually the front parking lot at McKee, adjacent to the shelter, that's all going to be redone yet this year. Kind of those projects. And that was, kind of a update of projects that the Parks Department is working on. Thank you.
Okay. And Next area is our staff reports and updates. Is there anything you want to highlight, Scott, other than what we've read?
Yeah, we're all kind of transitioning now into the fall and winter activities. Splash pad, we did extend the splash pad. Tomorrow will be the last day, but might be some people there, but certainly over the weekend, I'm sure there was plenty of people there, so we were able to get that extended with the budget amendment and all that good stuff. There is in the budget for 2024 dollars to have full-time staff man it on Memorial Day weekend and then also Labor Day weekend. So if that passes, then we'll have the dollars to get it covered on those holiday weekends. Yeah,
That's everything.
yeah, that's about. And then future agenda items, we got fitness equipment that we're still working to find a home for. Community center, park shelter policy review. That's going to come before the end of the year. And then actually, I didn't include it, but David Haight is asked to come before the park commission, and we were going to schedule him for this month, but it was pretty busy, so I anticipate he'll be coming in October. So
Okay.
that's all I have.
And our next two meetings, October 5th and November 2nd, 6 p.m. Motion to adjourn? Okay, David and Heidi.
Motion.
Heidi's going to get the second, and Dave croaked out the motion. Okay. All right. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned 7:28 p.m.